sun would rise again and beat back the darkening din. Soon the silos overflowed, a smart harvest to be stowed. He saw autumn fading fast, felt winter's icy grasp, and while he thought which crops the frost would kill, the reaper made a pass like the thawing ice. His heart broke thrice, and soon screaming down the drive came those quickened colored lights, and the news soon flew that his heart it would not move, and we realized the fatal price to live life once removed.
What else is new?
Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, I know.
The trolley just came in. Ryan Benson used to do that.
I hope Ryan's well.
I think he is.
Yeah.
He lays floors.
Good for him. Where is he living? Is he living with his parents yet? No,
I would have to think not.
Yeah.
No. They lived down in Arizona for a while, and then
well, right,
they
then
were
they
back.
moved back.
It was so funny. It was like 3 Christmases ago when I was home from New York and was taking a nap, and all of a sudden Mom's like, Jake! What? Someone's down here to see you!
Okay.
Who would even be here? So I like come downstairs, and Ryan Benson's sitting in the living room.
Go, Ryan.
Hey, Jake, how's it going? Oh, my God. It hadn't changed a bit.
Nope.
Not a bit.
So this Ryan guy.
Yep.
He's
I
right.
mean, this is actually kind of random that we're talking about it. So we grew up in a town called Dacada, which is unincorporated, and we've talked about it in the past. But luckily, when we grew up, there was a lot of kids our age in the town. So we had a romping good time. I mean, we'd play capture the flag. We'd jump on numerous different trampolines in the town. You know, it was just all of us would find something to do. Well, Ryan, he was right around. Was he your age or a year above, or
He was
what?
a year above.
Yeah. He would
Between Nick and I.
He was one of those kids who would just hang out all the time. Like, whether or not there was anything going on, like,
He's always at our house.
he'd help us fold our laundry.
Yeah.
Like, he was just there,
He
you
was
know?
like a
He was like another kid.
5th kid.
So it was really cool. And as time went on, we kind of, you know, it's not like we fell out of touch. It was just more of a life happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
He got
I guess
married
it is
pretty
fell
quickly,
out of touch.
And yeah.
So, but he's
We were
one of those
the
guys
first
where,
band I was ever in was with Ryan,
Right.
Brad, and Andy. Actually.
Yeah. Andy
Dolans. He was our bassist.
wow.
Smaller than the others.
That's
So
what
let me ask you a question, Jake. So Joe's been in a couple bands. He's talked about them.
Yeah.
Now, how many different bands have you been into?
2.
Were you in like the competing? Or,
5.
Yeah, when we were in high school, he
It's like
was also
5 or
in
6.
He was in Hopeless Hope.
5 or 6, I'd say. Like in middle school, smaller than the others. Then I met Luke. Cole was.
What was the band
one of
we
our
were in
best friends.
together?
That was Contravene.
Contravene, okay.
It was called No More Time, the first concert I think we ever played, which
Okay.
was Falls Fest, like the first fall fest that there ever was
Wow, I can't.
in Random Lake, which is just this
Falls Fest in
autumnal
Fall
festival on a
Old Falls
Saturday.
Festival. I was thinking like Sheboygan Falls
No,
Fest.
it's like
randomly.
It's like fall time.
Gotcha.
and just vendors come out into the main drag. But
Yep.
we played that show, and that was an hour and a half set of all Blink-182 songs because that was what that was our jam at
That
the
is the
time.
best thing
Joe
ever.
was our lead singer. I played
great.
guitar. Cole was on bass, and Luke was on drums. And
All the
and then
small.
like you joined up with Isaiah and Andy. No, Isaiah wasn't in it at first.
No,
It was
not-
Andy, Ryan, and
Kyle
Nick,
was his
Nick
name.
Jacobs. I
Nick
thought.
Jacobs.
Yeah. But you guys were Restless Reflection.
Yeah.
We became Contravene. There was all the bands for Brian. There were the Battle of the Bands. Like there was a good year and a half where like there was a show at the Hilltop like once every 2 months,
Which is
The
literally
Hilltop,
right
just
down the
up
road
the
from
hill
here. Yeah.
from here. And it was this like I heard you guys talking about it with Andy Isaiah that like
Oh, you listen.
it's a very unique thing that happened. Like there were like 7 bands around here that
Yeah.
we all like. My guitar teacher Riley, he had a band Paniculum with Mark.
I
Thiel and
just
Gus.
jammed with Gus.
Yeah, like
and I told him like, hey,
those
I
guys
just want
are
you to
like-
know. I know I'm 30 years old now, and I don't know how you are, but it's an honor.
They were like
to be
the
playing with you
cornerstone.
right now.
Yeah, so like
It's
my
a big
my
deal.
guitar teacher, he was in high school. But like I would go to the Hilltop where I was playing on the same bill as him and his band. And like Mark he is such a great writer.
Sure.
And like there's so much, I think, of influence of their first album that they put out, which I think was just self-titled, but they recorded it in Mark's basement. And like there's so much of that like shitty sound that I love about recording sound. And there's a lot of artists now that do it more lo-fi, that like they want it to sound more like that. And
like a cassette tape.
I picked up 2 tape decks because I want to record onto
tapes,
actual cassettes, and then have that digitally recorded for parts and instruments for this album that I'm putting together now. But so there was Paniculum, and so we became Contravene. Like you hooked up with Restless Reflection, and that was that whole time. And then eventually we became Hopeless Hope. Same guys, just a different name, because we Googled and we found out that Contravene was already taken, and we didn't want any
kind of a big deal.
And like our idols, Blink-182, like they had originally been called Blink, but there was an Irish band named Blink already, so they added the 182, and I don't really remember why they chose 182. But I did an English paper on them, which is kind of embarrassing a little. Like in 8th grade, I wrote a paper on Blink-182.
It's what.
But
that's the beauty
it
of
motivated you,
papers.
I mean, that's.
But yeah, so that Hopeless Hope took us through college or high school, and actually the first album I ever recorded in earnest was just down the road, with Jeff Hammond, who was Cole's bass teacher at White House of Music in West Bend, and he had just like all the equipment in his apartment down there, and we showed up on a Saturday and we recorded it in like 5 hours. It's a 9-album song.
I remember
it's called
that.
Alone.
I remember hearing that.
And it's all like all the album artwork I just like drew it on notebook paper and we scanned that.
Well, you had an album before that even that you guys, there was this random little chair.
That's the one.
That's the one?
That's Alone, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was
they would take this chair and they just place it in random places and take pictures of it. Like that was
like
the
a
album work.
Elementary school sized chair that like Cole and Luke had graffitied at Cole's house.
I get it.
It's a band thing.
It's one of those things.
I get it.
So
It's
Hopeless Hope got
That's
us
not cool.
through. Recorded that album in like freshman year of high school, and then we would like play different shows throughout high school. Like these bands would be, either homecoming or whatever they were.
Right.
And then I stopped. I guess I kind of stopped like writing music and playing music when I went to college, because it became more about like, I'm going to do theater now. I'm going to be an actor.
Yep.
And then it wasn't until the summer between, I think, sophomore and junior year of college that I had a breakup that then I like picked my guitar back up and was like, oh yeah, this is how I used to process my feelings. And
I remember that. It was a big deal.
it was a rough summer.
What was the name of that? That was the Something in the Attic, or
no, that was actually the next summer. But a lot
of those songs were used on that, right?
No, actually it wasn't until like the summer between sophomore and junior year, that was like an actual girlfriend, and like that we broke up, and that was supposed to happen. Like there was no doubt about that. And then that next year, like developed feelings for another person.
That's
but
right.
This person never really actually reciprocated the feelings, but I kept stoking them in my brain. And then the following summer, like did the whole 9 yards and like made myself seem so available. And like in my mind, I was like just doing everything possible and throwing myself, which when I look at it in hindsight, I never really like outwardly just said like, hey, I like you.
Hey, I got feelings for you.
Yeah. Like I instead was just hoping the implication was strong enough that she would be like, cool. Yeah. You wrote me a song. Okay. Nice. But instead that didn't happen. So I usually do, took it too far in my brain, wrote a whole album about it, and then recorded it with Cole. And that was the first album under the name Dacada Summer, which is what is now my like main project. Mm-hmm. So that was called The Room in the Attic, and
that's right.
It was a really fun, like Cole and I put that down in a summer, and it's actually one of my like better quality sounding things, I think. Mm-hmm. But so that was like, that took me into senior year, and then that same professor that I visited, like huge supporter of my music and like just a great friend now, but he he actually like called me in to his office in the spring because I had given him the album, and he was like, I just want to like talk about it. And I came in and he was like, so I really like it. And I think we should send a demo to my management, like to my agent, their agency, which are one of the bigger ones in New York. And so we like came up with a 3-song demo where I took 3 of the songs and we re-recorded them with Cole, and he kind of like coached me through it, and then sent it over there, and they were like, who's this kid?
Really?
What is it?
I don't even know that I heard this.
Because I didn't really talk about it, because nothing ever came of it. You know,
Okay.
I ended up meeting with them as an actor. Like
Okay.
I then did a reading. You know, it was actually a script for a movie that eventually came out. So I like auditioned for the part.
What movie?
At the agency? 2 Night Stand, I think it was called. It was this young woman and young man that got stuck in an apartment in New York because of a blizzard, and it was like them like they hooked up. They were going to hook up because of online. Whatever, online dating, and she goes to his place and gets stranded there, and then they didn't do anything the first night, but by the end of the 3rd night, they're like in love, whatever.
Yeah.
Of course.
But
As you do.
As
So
you
then-
do.
I'm in New York at that point, and like had that project, Mikey Gastaldi, who
Yep.
like I ended up going to college with this guy who's a musical theater performer, but Joe had gone to choir camp with the guy back in like 7th grade.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we had this like
Small world.
Crazy.
long-standing thing. But Mikey was working with a producer, an independent producer on the Lower East Side. His name was Ayhan Sahin, and he's Turkish, and went down there to record some tracks for Mikey. And Mikey's like, oh, he's got stuff too. So Ayhan was like, well, yeah, let me hear it. So I played him like whatever was on YouTube, and he's like, I love it. Let's like talk. So then he wrote up a contract, and I almost didn't go for it. I remember calling Mom and like crying. I was like, I just think this guy like wants money, and I don't think it's gonna work out. And Mom's like, okay, why don't you breathe? And like she was like, I think you're supposed to be doing this, and blah blah blah. And a lot of it is like you go out to a place with expectations of this is what you're supposed to be doing, and then a whole nother
You mean
avenue
in
is
New
sent
York,
to
you're
you.
saying?
Yeah, that like I'm
Oh,
here to
'cause
be
you
an
were
actor.
That's right.
And of course, I had the guitar there, but
That wasn't the point.
that wasn't the point. And that album was Fourth and First, which was like my actually like produced. That's on iTunes and Spotify.
Yep.
Under Dacada Summer.
Look it up, ladies and gentlemen. It's pretty good.
But the way I feel about that album was like it was a hodgepodge of like we took songs from different parts of my life. So those songs were part of other albums. That,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
in my brain, that's how they fit together. So this group of 10 songs suddenly was like, oh, there's no connection between these songs. Like, and yeah, they may be the most poppy sounding of what I had written, but like I never have written in that way to be like, this is something somebody's going to hum to. Yeah, something somebody's going to hum to. I don't like, I think that's a fault of mine maybe that I'm always trying to be too cerebral, I think. But I didn't feel like I had the most creative control over that situation,
Okay,
like
yep.
Ayhan had like, which I think I learned some things, but also I just,
Well, it's only your first major.
exactly.
You know
So
what
I
mean?
had no
Like,
real expectations of how it was supposed to work. I'd only ever recorded with Cole, and obviously then it's like I'm pulling the strings, saying like,
Right,
"Can you bring
right.
this up? Bring that down." So then I was playing around with Mikey a lot, and that band was called Sweater Weather.
That's awesome.
And
I remember that, yeah.
we like had we had a residency at a Lower East Side club called Pianos for a whole month, but we like played like Upper East Side, Lower East Side, and then it was the summer of 2013 where Sam, this other guy he was
Yeah.
a senior when I was a freshman in college, he was an acting major, and he's a dog walker out in New York, and he like sent me a Facebook message and was like, hey, I just got a new guitar, you want to jam sometime? And like that Friday or whatever, he came over to my place in Clinton Hill, and we jammed, and it was like magic. Like we played for like 4 hours, it ended up
Right.
being like 12 in the morning. He's like, I got to bike back to my place in Queens, so I should leave. But it was like, from then on, we were just like going, we were writing,
Awesome.
and then he had this plan in his head where Megan Utek, which Joe knows, Megan,
She's pretty awesome.
amazing woman.
Shout out to Megan. She's in Nashville now, right?
She is in Nashville, just like
Living the dream.
kicking butt.
She's
taking
actually
names, like
literally living the dream.
she is.
Singing on stage.
But she is like, she's got this big old voice on her, but like is the funniest person in the world. And so Sam had this like thought or this like image, this vision of sort of like a classic rock from the 60s, sort of like a pastiche, not really, like mixed in with the Black Keys and, you know, the people that are contemporaries of us now. Yeah. And that's where that started. You came up with the name Good Wolf from the whole, you know, the old Native American proverb of, you know, we each have two wolves in each of us.
Which one are you
feeding, the good wolf or the bad wolf? And it was this real, like, sort of call to action for all three of us that were in the city where you feel like you're getting kicked around most of the time. And then, but you have this thing to pour yourself into that's a good outlet. Like we were writing about social justice and, you know, all that.
Right.
Sam was the main writer. I would then like take what he wrote and we would just kind of keep arranging it from there. I was usually just like throwing riffs in every once in a while. And that continued, and Megan was having a rough time, and eventually she had to get out of there, out of New York. She just like couldn't take it anymore, so she moved down to Nashville.
And she's from here?
Yeah, she's from Hartford originally.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so Sam and I continued, and it kind of morphed closer to like a blues rock thing, and like we went up to Cape Cod for 5 weeks because he had a friend there who's like an arts patron. He actually is the deputy director of the Plymouth Plantation, like the Plymouth Rock. Like he runs that. Coolest man you'll ever meet, Richard Pickering.
I met him at one time.
Like like he is old America. Like his mother, it's either like his mom's from the South and his dad's from the North. Like that's how it works out, or it's the other way. But whatever way it is, it's like, oh, they are like old timey, like
right.
You know.
Well, the house did.
Yeah, the house is original. Like, it's from the 1700s, and it's been moved a couple times.
Okay.
You know, but
you walk in there and you just feel like, whoa, you know, it was
like
awesome.
There's history in there. But so we were there for 5 weeks, and we just spent the day, like every day, like 8 hours writing and recording.
Okay.
Came back to the city and kind of had this like breath of like momentum, and we found a drummer and then a couple bassists that we would kind of swap in and out, and we're going, you know, pretty well. I had like picked up a dog walking gig, so I was working for Sam, and then like things just kind of got a little bit too much. Like we were gigging around, we were writing, and we were trying to like keep this momentum going, but things just got conflicted, you know, because we were mixing money with like actual, you know, money, jobs and livelihoods with this dream, with this project that, you know, and I feel like I got a little burnt out, which I don't think is the fault of Sam or the project at all. I think I maybe wasn't being the healthiest person, or just like mentally or physically. I wasn't really taking care of myself. But the level of the work just kind of got too much, and you know, like things happened here at home, and eventually Kate and I just looked at each other and we were like, what are we doing here anymore? Like
right.
If we're gonna just work a day job and then come home, like we may as well pay less rent.
Right.
And, you know, be closer to the people that we might lose.
Sure.
Because everybody's getting older.
Yeah.
And I also, it wasn't until like breaking out from that and getting away from the city that I was like, oh, and I hadn't paid attention to my own project for 3 years. I continued to write, you know, in my bedroom, but I never played live anymore. Like I did that for only like a year maybe out there for my own stuff. And a lot of it was just because I really don't like it when, and there's no fault for somebody that's got a really clear vision of what they want to come out of a project.
Right.
But like, I just have a real problem with somebody being like, I want you to do it this way, and this way is the only way to do it, and you better do it that way.
Right.
I instead like, I just had this conversation with Luke because we're working on this new music, and I'm constantly being like, I don't really care what you do. This is the ballpark I'm talking about, and I'll pair you back when I want to, but I'd rather you bring it out of yourself than me try to manufacture something out of you like you're a tool or something. I want you to grow it yourself.
Yeah, that's good.
Because I just think it's a more enjoyable experience that way. But that brings us to the present for me in my music history.
So we're looping
You
back
didn't
around
ask-
now. That's okay.
You didn't ask for the whole
I asked the small questions and I get
diatribe,
the-
You got the whole deal, the whole shebang there.
But yeah, it's interesting because I think, like Joe, you said you wanted to be an actor.
Yeah.
And like I started more so as a musician, I think. That like I learned to play guitar when I was 10 years old. And so like I was a musician, Joe was like always the actor. But then that like kind of flipped then in college. That like when
okay.
I was in college, Joe was gigging around here all the time.
Sure.
And I like barely played any music. And then, I don't know, it's just interesting that I think I did a lot of the things I did because of you. I know I did a lot of the things that I did because of you. And
well, that's kind of heavy.
but just like
the Kleenex is right there.
that's,
Oh my God.
No, that's yeah, I've had a lot of time to think about what my reasons are for doing things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, kind of along those same lines, you know, growing up. I mean, when we were in high school, we couldn't even look at each other at the dinner table. We hated each other.
Mostly my fault, I think.
No one's
pretty
at fault here, man.
No,
it's
like it is again. What I was saying,
No
like,
one's looking
you
for
like,
fault here,
You
man.
pine over a girl for a whole summer, and you don't tell her that you would like to maybe try to go on a date. Like, if you don't use the words, if you don't ever say to your brother, like, "I'm jealous of you because of these things," you can't move past it as an individual. So then you start to fester, and then you like end up pulling out a white T-shirt and writing on it with green marker, "Kiss me, I'm Joe's brother," and you wear it to school.
That's awesome.
Or you use the homecoming like dress up days, and it's dressed like a famous person. So you say to your brother, "Hey Joe, can I borrow your clothes?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And he gives me like the Dickies and the Cheesehead Chase shirt that he had worn at the show like that Friday. So it still smells like cigarettes and booze. And I'm like, "Yeah, thanks, bud. I'm going to go in there and play this." Yeah. I still remember when my parents went in for a parent-teacher conference, and they always made us go with, like in high school. And maybe this was more me. I don't know. Like, you got in trouble in your own ways. I got in trouble in my own ways that like, I had I shoot my mouth off. My mom always said, like, your mouth's going to get you in trouble. And I that definitely happened. But I remember we went into Mr. Carlson's room. He taught math, if you remember, like buddies with Mr. DeBrew. We sit down, and Mr. Carlson's like, "Oh my gosh, I just got to tell you guys, I thought Jake's shirt was the funniest thing ever," meaning the "Kiss me, I'm Joe's brother." And my mom's just like, yeah. Yeah, that was funny. Because there was an afternoon finally where my parents found that shirt in the laundry, and they were like, "What? You guys come in here now." And we sat down in the living room, and they're like, "What is going on?" And I'm like weeping, and Joe's like, "I have no clue what's going on at all." And I'm like, "But he told her, and I don't even know what's going on." Like, that's what I mean when it's my fault.
What I was going to get to
really deep
is that, I mean, I enjoy our
this
current
is why my
spot.
sister doesn't come on the podcast.
This is why I enjoy our current spot, is because we have that history. But nowadays, like, when we sit down and talk, it's usually how this podcast has gone. Like, every which way, very, very deep conversations.
Yeah.
I would go to New York probably 3 times a year sometimes, just to hang out. You know, I mean, obviously it's cool you're going to New York and all that stuff, but it was one of those things where I had to, because I didn't go to college like everyone else, but I had to just grow my
School
own
of hard knocks.
Yeah, but when I met up with Jake, it was like I'd kind of go back to those days in a way. I was much older, you know, at that point, and I had work responsibilities. But when we'd talk, it was more of like that going back to the roots. Like, oh, I haven't thought about that in a long time. Thanks for reigniting that portion of my brain that I don't use anymore. You know, so yeah, and that's why I invited you on the podcast.
That goes back to the whole dream dying thing. You know, like that. Like there's so much of like you guys tied into what I do. That kind of is again like the identity thing. That was a big, when I came back, Mom and I would have a couple conversations where I just would express the feeling that like, I feel like I kind of failed, you know? And she's like, "You didn't fail. Nobody thinks that."
Yeah.
But how can I not think that, you know?
Well, right.
Your definition of success was different than
Of course, which I have to continually redefine that.
Well, and I think that was my big thing going to San Diego, and people like, "Oh, you failed, you moved back." I'm like, no, I survived 3 years there. I was good, you know. Like, I did more than the rest of you fuckers.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah, and you forget,
you know,
that because you had, you know, it's the whole like shoot for the moon, you land in the stars. So
yeah.
But I was shooting for the moon. Like that was a surface I was supposed to land on, and I missed it.
Yeah.
So
I
me
remember
landing in
asking
the
you-
stars is floating around.
I remember asking him, like, "Jake, when are you making it?
Right.
What is that end goal?"
Yeah.
And you'd be like, And for me, I'm like, I feel like you did. I remember there was one time, man, holy shit. I walked out of this off-Broadway. I don't even know. Maybe it was off-Broadway. But regardless, I walk out of this theater that, you know, you go through a couple hallways and then you go down an elevator and
through the Chinese restaurant.
Right. But you walk out and literally Times Square is a block away.
Oh, okay.
And I just started crying because I was like, Jake, you made it.
Well, and that was your dream, the acting thing.
Well, sure. I was like, dude, you don't even understand how I feel about it right now. And he's like, I just did it. You know, I went okay. But for me, I was like, if you move home after this, I think you did it. You know, and that for me, it was like again, the perspective, like what's right, what's wrong, and how do you feel about it? And granted, I was able to go home to green grass and you know a very easy life, but you had to stay there, walk dogs, and do your thing. Right, so I don't know. For me though, walking out and seeing the lights of Times Square, that's making it for me. You know,
but perspective. It's all in that. Yeah, but it's all part and parcel. It's all like part of like you've got to. I don't know. I had to badger myself to get to a point where I decided like, badgering yourself isn't good. It's actually better if you give yourself a little bit of a break. And
right.
It's okay to reset, and it's okay. Like I told you about this, but it was when I did the theater conference in Washington D.C. and we had the movement guy.
Right.
Like it was this. It's from the Del Arte Institute, which is an institute in California, and it's all about acting, but from a physical sense. So you do all clown work where you kind of devoid yourself of who you are just to become this instrument physically of the story. But so he did like a 3-hour masterclass where he did all this stuff. So he had us just walking in the empty space of the room, just whatever. And he just continually said, changing when you want because you can. Changing when you want because you can. Meaning like change your path and, you know. And I remember coming out of that room and being like, that is the greatest mantra to have in your mind just throughout the rest of life. Changing when you want because you can.
Yeah.
Because you can. Like, you're the one that gets to say, I'm going to reframe my perspective here. I'm going to change the pattern that I'm living in. And it's way easier said than done.
Yeah.
But remembering that agency does lie within you. I know I need to remember.
That's a huge point because I know for a fact that in my early 20s, I would hit brick walls and you know have to climb over them or whatever. And I remember writing it down. I still have it hung up on my clipboard downstairs. It literally just with a marker. I said, "Change will save my life." And even though you know Bob Dylan said it best that you know the only constant in life or the only thing that you can plan on is change. When you feel that pain in your gut, like something's not right, that means you have to change something. You know, and that was something that I needed to look at to say, oh, you're not feeling good because something needs to change. You know, instead of just living in that all the time, because we do that, you have to change something. Otherwise, that pain will not go away.
Exactly.
You know, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Good talk, Jeff. Glad you're over there.
You two are a real treasure. Real treasure. It's crazy the way you two are delving way deeper into your own psychology.
But I don't know.
Like,
I don't. We do.
I don't think brothers. I don't think brothers have the kind of open and honest communication that you two are having right now, especially recorded, that people would have in their own bedrooms yelling at each other.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like a lot of this stuff never gets said, and I think it's cool being a third party to it.
Sorry, dude.
Well, no, it's one of those things you watch on TV where you like have those, you know, the climax of the movie where you know things get said and everything you know moves on from that point. But that's how it feels to me. So
I feel like a lot of it for me is like having a education in theater, which seems like, oh, so you learned how to speak accents and dance? No, like,
and you read well.
The most important parts were actually in just being able to look at another human being and say, like, I feel this way about this now. Like, this is how I'm feeling. And that's the most powerful thing, which is interesting to hear you say, because this is the way I'm always thinking. Like,
sure.
I'm learning this new press at work, and the guy that's teaching me this new press, like, we have conversations that like we got into like his personal life and my personal life. And I don't think he's going around to the other press operators and being like, so how do you feel about, you know, and I'm not saying, how do you feel about that? It's just that by starting with that, well, let's take the pretense out of it at the beginning. Then we just have no tension. Like,
right.
Sure.
we can just both agree that we're humans and we have each other's experiences. All right, let's move on from there. I don't know. It's like a really liberating place to live. But then that's also where, for myself, the whole like goal orientation, like that has sort of dissolved, because I feel like, well, if I just keep getting bogged down in that, then I'm going to forget the fact that this is all temporary and it's going to go away someday. And if I get so focused on how much money I have in my bank account, it's all the cliches. It's all the tropes of like, live in the now. That if you are actually living in the now, like you're an interesting person to look at, but like no one like is going to believe that you're succeeding in any sort of like professional sense.
Right.
I don't know. I'm totally tangenting off here. I'm just trying to articulate like that you're saying it's a very interesting thing. You, Jeff, are saying it's an interesting thing to
I think
watch.
people are, especially when you are so close as brothers, when you put yourself out there like that, you are opening yourself up to eternal critic,
Sure.
and that's a lasting member that lasts forever, and if somebody says something that it's something like a fleeting moment where like the press operator that's talking about work, one of you is going to leave that company at one point, and and more than likely in the near future, just because of how things work, but family lasts forever, until death, essentially.
That's true.
And so to be open with somebody who will and own you forever, that's why I think marriages, I think, are such a scary thing for people to be open and honest, because that person has, not saying that something has something over you, but you are opening yourself up to that person, and they're going to know you for the rest of their life.
Yeah,
right.
That's why I think people lie to their parents, I think, because you don't want to be exposed to your parents in the way that they know.
You don't want to have them see you in this
and that's why they
light.
don't tell you certain things, because your perspective, I want to think of my parents as the way they are now, and if you start opening that egg a little bit, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, I don't want
you have mortality.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
or like you screwed up, like I think of my parents in the whole lofty kind of thing, and that, their infinite wisdom is always helpful, but, they learned that from screwing up. And I don't want to know that. I know in the back of my head it's true, but, I think that with family, it's such a different thing because of the eternity of it.
Totally.
Of the whole thing. So.
Yeah.
Because now that's something that you'll always remember. So even at Christmases and the next Christmas and the birthday and, all that kind of stuff gets added up together, and it changes your perspective of somebody. And, a lot of people are very protective of that and saying, okay, this is the way I am, and I want people to know me that way. And every personal detail I give out changes that a little bit.
Sure.
And, sometimes you are scared that it changes it in a negative way, especially if you say, hey, I screwed up to Joe. And, he's like, yeah, you did. And then that changes your, oh my God, now Joe thinks I'm a failure. But, then you're hoping Joe's going to tell you, no, Jake, you were really great. And you're not saying that as a self-serving, please tell me, but, for them to change that, you are scared, because if you didn't say that, that ruins your self-image to Joe, and Joe's image of you changes also. And, that kind of thing is a scary step forward. And to have that be just set out like that is I think way deeper than maybe you thought about, just because you're just an open honest.
I think that's what it is that I must have, I think I did lie a lot. No, I did. I think we all lie a lot. But I lied a lot when I was a kid.
I lied so much,
Mom
and Dad told me Santa Claus wasn't real.
But that's, spoiler alert.
Sorry, bros.
But the point is that, like, I think I then moved into, like, when you get to don the consciousness that you hold after middle school or elementary school, where you start to like, oh, these are my views and they're more set in stone. And you don't really look at it that way until you're like 25, 27, whatever, when you're like, oh, this is actually how I view the world. That for whatever reason coming up. And I think for better or worse, like we had you, Joe, as a
cautionary tale.
As a cautionary tale, for lack of a better word, though.
Quickly.
But like,
that's funny.
It's true though. That and so because of that, like, I knew I was never going to get away with anything, or some like to that effect. So I think that instilled like, well, just always be truthful, because your face is going to.
It didn't work out for
your
Joe.
Your face is going to tell. Well, yeah, and it didn't work out for me either. Like I always got found out somehow.
Sure.
Like.
Yeah.
Well, kids are terrible liars.
Of course.
Because they don't understand.
But then you also like,
you have to keep lying.
But then that compounds, and like it sucks to lie. Like it sucks to have to keep up a lie,
Right.
even a small one. Like where it's like, no, I can't make it because I've got this thing tonight. And really, you don't have anything. You just didn't want to go anywhere. But like,
that's one of those things you tell them. Your shit's stupid. I'm not going to that.
But you don't want to change the way that person sees you. That like, they now think that I think something about them is stupid. Like, I would never want somebody to think that about me. Yeah,
depends on who it is. I guess.
Yes. But
you're right. You're right.
I'm just trying to, I guess,
process back to what I said. Yeah.
Process what like. Why is it that I'm seemingly more like open about the way I feel?
We could totally go down another rabbit hole here, but I mean that's
I'm probably wrap.
Yeah, okay, we'll wrap it up. But
no, I'm not. That's not what I was trying to say.
No,
I'm just saying. You're
but
right.
it is true. We're going on 2 hours 8 minutes here. So, but good, it's still here. But no, it is one of those interesting things with nowadays social media. Everyone has a face that they show the world. What happens behind that face, no one really knows.
Well, that's what Instagram's for. Filters.
Well, exactly.
You're only showing the people the good food you're eating and the good things you're doing.
And I am not. I've said it a couple times on here, and I don't want people to think that I'm like this squeaky clean human being who just does everything perfectly, because I fuck up all the time. But
I work with the guy. It's totally true.
Yeah, no, I'm a piece of shit. But like
I wouldn't go that far.
I learned again in my 20s that it's a part of who I am now that I have to tell the truth. Otherwise, I get fucked up internally.
Sure.
Like I can't. It's too heavy. I can't. I will tell the white lie every once in a while, of course.
Yeah.
But it's
omission of truth.
At the end of the day, though, it's gonna come out, but for whatever reason, it's one of those things where I can't lie. It's too much to remember. And at the end of the day, too, like with opening up and talking to someone, I think that's where we're getting to before. It's just I want to learn about who you are. What's the reason why you think that way?
Right.
And then let me understand that. I mean, it's like at work, we learn about crucial conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Go down and learn what that, underlining reason is to why they feel that way. And then you can proceed with that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some people don't want to let that out.
Right.
Which, okay, it's fine. But guess what? I'm not able to help you then. It's help me help you type of thing.
Totally. Yeah.
I want to be on your side. I want to enjoy what you have to say. I'm sure I can learn from it. But if you're not going to be open and honest about it, then
There's nothing.
don't waste my time.
Right.
You figure your own stuff out then.
Yeah. Yeah. So, podcast number 19.
Another long one with Jake.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. We could just have you on every other podcast, and then we could have deep, philosophical,
really long
conversation.
If you want, you guys seem kind of tired.
I know.
A little exhausted by it.
You gonna take over?
I'm ready to go.
Friday nights with Jake.
No.
We could do a Jake podcast.
Feel free to come on whenever you want.
Yeah.
So
Just barge right in.
Yeah.
Most of the time at 10:30, somewhere in there. Don't come early because we always record late.
I learned that today.
Yeah.
Actually, I learned that the
45
first
probably.
time, too.
Yeah. I mean, you can hang out with Paranormal Palaver as well.
If you want to bring your wife too, that's really cool.
Yeah. That would be interesting.
Joe and I are gonna have our wives on, our wives and girlfriends.
Yeah,
he's gonna bring his wife. I'll
Wives
bring
and
my
special
girlfriend.
friends.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, there we go. I like that.
Yeah, we're gonna have them on one time eventually.
One time.
Well,
That's all they get. That's all they get.
Apparently, they are trying to bogart the whole podcast, and they're gonna bring Abby back and do a girls' podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I feel.
Friend of
about
ours
it.
from work, Abby Pico. We literally met her
She
like
was
that
on
night.
the podcast. I think like 4 or 5, like real early on it.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. For anybody,
But
who
she came
wants
on
to
it,
play
so
along
she
at home.
met both of our significant others, and the three of them had
at the
this
company party.
girls thought.
Whoa.
So it was crazy, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
A crazy thought that they would take over the podcast one time.
See, that was another long one too. That was actually 4 parts. That was episode 10. We were hanging out with Abby, so that was another long one as well.
Joe and I kept talking over her. Like, she would start this conversation.
And we're like, no, really, yeah.
Joe and I would say, at one point, we turned our mics off because we felt
we're like,
that,
sorry.
Couldn't
yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. It was
They
hard
call
to give
that
up the control.
mansplaining.
Yeah.
I think they call it
Bad.
Yeah, it was-
Manalog.
We were not.
But she did a
helpful.
good job
She
navigating.
was rolling
and-
through it.
yeah.
She really didn't
She-
need the spotlight though. So
She threw the punches when she needed to. But that goes out to everyone. If you want to get a hold of us or let us know how you feel about what we talked about, or you want to get in on the conversation, you can hit us up at Friday. I do believe it's Friday night. with JJ
Not night.
at gmail.com.
Okay.
Yeah, because I know we say Friday nights,
Yeah.
but the Gmail is Friday night with JJ at gmail.com. Then we're also obviously on Facebook. You can look us up there, send us messages there. And coming up, by the time you listen to this, maybe you'll be on some type of podcast avenue. But that is next. We have an RSS. We just have to get signed up for iTunes and SoundCloud and Stitcher and all that stuff, which we are currently working on.
And Paranormal Palaver's already up there. We're just doing Friday Nights with Jeff and Joe second.
Yeah.
So, and there will be
We're learning a lot.
There'll be a website. I don't know the name of it, so we'll tell you next time, I think.
Yeah, I think it'll be Friday Nights with JJ.
Is it? Okay.
It's Friday nights. You can go to it now. There's not much on
Friday
there.
Nights
But
with JJ.com.
Yep.
The domain name is there. already.
And we are working on merchandise right now. We've got a couple ideas. I think I'm going to be buying some T-shirts in the next week or two, sending those out.
Yeah, we're coming up with a new logo, too.
Yeah, the logo is going to come out, especially if we need one for iTunes, actually.
Yeah, we will need that.
So,
For now,
yeah,
I'll
so
use
we're working
something.
on, we're trying to do a lot of stuff. We did, last week we took the week off, and so we're trying to use that momentum.
So we're compensating this week.
with a 5 or 6 parter. So a lot of stuff is coming. Buckle your seatbelts.
Buckle it.
And get ready.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks, Jake.
Click
for
it
coming on.
or ticket, as they say. Click it or ticket, guys.
And with that, it's all the random useless info you want to know. It's Friday Nights with
Jeff
and Joe. And this week,
Jake.
awesome. Thanks, y'all, for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.
Until next time.
There's this battered old typewriter in the back room. And this battered old typewriter was a gift from bride to groom. She was a lion, ready to change the world with her bare hands. He was quiet, but in love with this girl, afraid of strange lands. Said I can't protect you much, and I shy away from touch, and I'm pretty scared to hope, and at the end of my rope, but I thought you looked the part. And I'm about to open my heart, and I hope you read it close, 'cause I only wrote one note. She was crying, looking for his hand to hold, sterile bedroom. He was trying, running late, a bit too bold, trying to write the moon. He said, I am here, you know, and I got the tears to show that I'm just as scared as you, not sure what to do, but I tried to do my part, and I'm about to open my heart, and I know he can't read it yet, but I wrote it so it's there when he said. Tired, old, plenty worn, and he let go. She acquired souls she could mourn, all she used to know. And she found herself in some old thrift store, and she was almost outside the door when she caught sight of those Remington keys, and she just about fell to her knees, and I asked if she needed some help, but she said she just needs time to herself, 'cause she was looking at her late husband's heart in his typewriter and its old rusty parts. He wrote her love. He wrote her love. He wrote her There's this bad old typewriter in the next room, and this battered old typewriter was a gift from bride to groom.
Just to test this biatch out. Checking microphone.
Checking a microphone.
Check. Ooh, that's a little loud.
That's a microphone.
Isn't it? It's very loud.
A little loud there.
Oh,
That's okay. Hey, you want to text the... What? Oh, my God. I think we just have to work on that, not keep that good.
No, I turned myself up actually.
Oh, okay, very good.
But are you recording right now?
Yeah, just to test this out.
Yeah, but how do I look audio? Like I look normal, right? I look normal when I talk, right? I mean, up and down, it looks normal. Am I a little low or a little high?
They can't see you, Jeff.
No,
You can't.
it looks pretty good.
Am I? Well, no, that's how you change it here.
No, I know that. It looks. Yeah, I'm the same. I'm the same as well.
Okay.
Not peeking.
Nope, Jake's not beat.
None.